Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Monday review time, being recorded on a Sunday, so do forgive myself and the returning Rhys if we say yesterday in error, because we are looking back at Saturday's, quite frankly, a mental 3-3 draw at the county ground as we drew 3 each with potentially now Jody Morris's Swindon Town, but it wasn't Jody Morris's Swindon Town at the time, although he was spotted in the crowd, so that announcement may have been made by the time you watch this, because as I said, we're recording on Sunday and you're watching it on Monday. Anyway, I'm waffling on. Rhys, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
That was one hell of an hour and a half.
My goodness me. Yeah, it was, to have a goal conceded that early on and then to get free again in 10 or 12 minutes, I don't know, I was all over the place. I can't imagine what it was like in the stands. I've seen your video. It looked a little bit, I don't know, mental.
I think mental's the best word to describe it. I just said to you, I was just uploading a clip onto the Instagram page to link to the vlog on there. And I think the word I've used is carnage.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It was absolute carnage for about 15 minutes in the away end. It was absolutely brilliant fun. But you then get up the next morning being nearly 41 and realise that you're not as young as everybody else and you shouldn't be jumping around like a lunatic. But emotion takes over. Yeah, we'll go back to 2 o'clock like we always do, and we'll look at the team news, and then obviously we'll get into what, quite frankly, was a ridiculous opening quarter of an hour. No real surprises for me. I don't know what you thought. I know there was calls for maybe Masterson or George Lapsley to come into the 11, but I just thought on the back of 2 clean sheets and 2 good wins, 2 different wins as well, it would have been incredibly harsh to have taken out any of that 11. And it's nice to have the right kind of selection headache. I get that, but I just think it would have been the wrong choice, essentially, is my opinion, if he'd put in Connor Masterson, who's not played any senior football all season, aside from 2 minutes, I think, opening day for QPR. And it'd have been incredibly harsh on any of that midfield 4 to replace them with George Lapsley.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's one of those things, because if Harris makes the choice to go, oh, I'm going to make a change, and then we lose it, then that's what people will say was the reason why. But if he doesn't make a change, and and we don't go and win it, people will go, well, why didn't you change it? You know what I mean? It's one of those,
he comes into, I suppose, like a lose-lose situation with expectation raising a little bit and more options, because, yeah, like you say, if it goes wrong, then it's because he didn't change it, or it's because he did change it. It's easy then to just target the manager. But the players, we've said this all season, have to take responsibility as well. And we'll get onto that later on in the video. But yeah, it was an unchanged 11, so I'm not going to tell you all who it was, because you should know it by now, because I've said it for the last 3 Sundays. But it was great to have people like George Lapsley, Connor Masterson on the bench who can come on and affect games in different ways. Good to see Joe Bode still on there getting experience around the first team. Scott Cashkett was the only other change from last week. He came back onto the bench for Lewis Walker, so I'm assuming Lewis Walker may have picked up a recurrence of that knock that Neil Harris alluded to. And quite interesting that he confirmed in his interview afterwards, Rhys, that Stuart O'Keefe didn't travel and was left out purely for selection purposes.
Oh, wow. So I actually didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, I watched that on iFollow late last night or early this morning. He has confirmed that. Again, it just points to me to maybe that this could be the last few months of Stuart O'Keefe in a Gillingham shirt, I think, personally.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget, actually, he's been a big core part of the squad for the last few seasons, and what this does kind of show is is the as he's getting older, his abilities and his quality would decline. At the same time, we're getting more people into the building who are who are a lot of higher quality. So, it's these intersections are now getting further and further apart. So it doesn't surprise me that I didn't know that, but actually on reflection, it doesn't surprise that he's being left at home due to the selection reasons at all. But it's, but he's getting on a bit as well now, I suppose.
We've said all season, haven't we? Myself and you and a lot of people on social media have said that we can't play O'Keefe and Williams together. And it seems to be that Harris favours Sean Williams. And Sean Williams, I said on the Match Day Live yesterday during the first half, suddenly looked 26 instead of 36. He was getting on. He was running with the ball into driving into their final third. And we'll get on to Swindon, because I thought they took a chance all the time. But something to keep an eye on anyway in terms of Stuart O'Keefe. We've gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, but right, let's try and make some sense of the first half, and certainly the first 25 minutes work, which I described as a basketball game. Defending tactics went out the window. It was just absolute bedlam. Worst possible start. I've written down, defended the cross okay, but you cannot leave Johnny Williams alone in the penalty area.
I disagree with you defending the cross okay. I thought Mackenzie did an absolute poor job of clearing his lines.
Fair enough. I just thought that I thought they'd done well to get an overload on David Tatonda.
Yes.
And suddenly, so then we were suddenly stretched. So in the sense that, I mean, we've done well is that we made the first contact. I think then Mackenzie is hoping that another player is then getting out to Johnny Williams, but it then became a case of ball watching, which I agree then made it a poor goal to concede.
But that's the thing, when the ball comes over, and I wonder because it was the first cross of the game, it was only 30 seconds old at the time. You know, if you're a defender, well, I don't know. If you're a defender, the last thing you want to do is put it in the danger zone. I kind of feel Mackenzie's header, he should have been flicking it behind for a corner, really. That was when I saw that. And he kind of popped it back and just hovered it over the penalty spot. And I thought, oh, and that's, you know, and is it Williams that got on the end of it in the end, I think, and buried it. And I just thought, okay, that just sounds like you're just dusting the cobwebs off at Mackenzie for the first sort of 30 seconds. But, you know, I thought it was a poor defensive decision. But, you know, that you're allowed, you know, I think you're allowed to make those throughout the season every now and again. It was a little bit of a reality check after 30 seconds about what we were potentially up against, and it looked a little bit like the Gillingham from, you know, September.
Yeah, I think that was that, and we all sort of looked at each other in the crowd and were looking about, and because obviously the atmosphere in the away end was brilliant from as soon as everyone was in there. It was loud, it was everyone was literally bouncing up and down. I don't think I sat down on my seat at all. So yeah, then you're looking at and you're going to each other. Oh, now we're going to see what we're made about, because this is the first time we've come under any real pressure since the new group of players have been put together. I think we reacted all right, to be fair.
I think so. I think it was
2 minutes later, it's 1-1, and I mean, it's appalling. You talk about bad defending.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just decided to let Timmy Dieng run 30 yards unattended into the 6-yard box. It's not like he's a little fellow. He's a huge bloke. It's not like
exactly.
It's like being run over by an ambulance. How do you not notice it approaching you? You know what I mean? It's got a big flashing light and a big stripe down the side. You're like, oh, there's some sort of warning sign, but.
No one was around him. No one was around him. And also, what a ball from Nichols. Right on his head. Literally. Right on his head.
And also, I think, again, Macca needs credit, because it's a lovely little ball on the outside of the fullback that gets Nichols in behind and he holds his run. But Timmy Dieng literally just has to put his head on it and the keeper doesn't move. So we're thinking 1-1.
Yep.
Breathe and the game might settle down. No.
It definitely didn't. It ramped up, if anything else. The second goal.
Just the carnage just continued, and obviously we were at the far end, so we're sort of looking left to right, diagonally across the pitch to see it. And we've seen Ollie Hawkins win the first flick from the ball down the pitch into their dangerous area, and then I think Maxime is still up from the previous set play, swings a leg at it. I'm not sure if it's going in. We said penalty straight away.
I think it might be going over the stand. I'm pretty.
I'm trying to help here, Max. He was very good, but that was probably.
When he won us the penalty, let's not forget that. You know, he had a go. If you take the chance,
that is it. The old saying: if you don't buy a raffle ticket, you can't win a prize. Replays clearly show that it hit the fella in the face, didn't it?
Absolutely. But I just want to say one thing, actually. Yeah, it's not a penalty. Just want to clear that it's not a penalty. Straight away when it happened, I thought it hit him straight in the face. But I want to say one thing, like, you need to remember, but I might get hit for this. I'm quite, you know, with referees, if you're at that moment, the referee, I think, has a few odd decisions to finish throughout the whole game. I'd like to broach a few of those. But particularly this one, if you're a defender and you're going in to try and block that, if your hands are up, actually, you know what? It makes a decision for the referee a lot harder. So therefore, you put yourself more at risk of getting a false or the wrong decision given against you. I know it's very hard to block something and you're trying to protect your face and the ball goes through. And I still think it's a really harsh decision because it wasn't a penalty. But if your arms are up and you know, you give the referee a harder job, I wouldn't want to be the one to make that decision because, you know, I'm sure he wouldn't be the only referee to fit that hit someone on the hand.
Oh, yeah, of course. And he gets a split second, literally a split second to make that decision. And I see what you're saying, because we look back at the replays, I think, during half time, because Matt Phipps puts the little clips up quite quickly. His arms are up like that. So I understand, depending on where the referee's seen it, but you've got to feel a little bit sorry for the Swindon player, because he's literally taken one in the jaw for his team and ends up giving away a spot kick.
Absolutely. But also, just to add to that as well, there is also the other argument, which I didn't quite understand, the ref giving the penalty was, you know, Maxime was about 4 yards away from him, and he's absolutely levered it. Like, and you know, he's got nowhere to go, essentially. Even if it does hit his arm, if that hits his arm, even I'm thinking that probably isn't a penalty, like, because it's so close to him.
It's the rule, isn't it? Unfortunately, the rules have changed over the last few years so many times that I'm not sure anyone actually knows exactly what they are now, and they just become frankly a little bit ridiculous. But the amount of bad luck we've had over the last 6 months and the amount of rubbish we've had to watch, we'll take it. And Will Wright, thankfully, was absolute calmness personified. It was probably the only moment of calm in the first 15 minutes because he does that lovely little slow, casual walk, which I absolutely hate in a penalty taker. I'm not going to lie.
Me too.
I'm pretty much old school. Pick your spot and hit it as hard as you can and make sure you make the keeper make a save. But he did the little stutter, rolled it the other way once the keeper had fallen to his left, in off the post. And I must admit, I did enjoy the little celebration
that
in
was
front
nice,
of the home fans because he was obviously getting a bit of stick before the spot kick. I noticed as well that Sean McDonald, that's not a player, Alex McDonald and Sean Williams. I don't know if you noticed it on the iFollow coverage, depending on what the angle was, but one of their centre-halves, I'm pretty sure, was trying to scuff up the penalty spot. And Will Wright just took himself away from it. And then Alex McDonald and Sean Williams just went and stood on the penalty spot and just didn't move for about 2 minutes to stop any...
okay. No, I didn't see that.
Tampering, I suppose, would be the cricketing term. But yeah, they were
I didn't see that one.
Pick the seam if it was a cricketing analogy.
No, I didn't see that one, but that's actually quite a good tactic to protect the penalty spot because we know in previous games historically that's happened, and not Gillingham specifically, but in football. And a Frank Lampard penalty from ages ago for Chelsea rings a bell or something like that.
I remember the biggest one for me was England in the World Cup. I think Harry Kane against Colombia, and the centre half Mina, I think it is, who plays for Everton, was clearly just dragging his studs back and forth through it before it was taken. We can talk about penalties comfortably as a Gills fan because it's something we've actually been good at all season on the whole. I think we've only missed one.
I know.
Right, 2-1.
Yeah.
Still only 9 minutes gone. 4 minutes later, we're in absolute dreamland. And again, it's poor defending from Swindon because I think it's an absolutely needless foul on the touchline. I think it's Tom Nichols is running back towards the halfway line and the bloke just shoves him over.
Yeah.
But then we have to talk about Alex McDonald again. Delivery is absolutely first class. I've seen a couple of Swindon fans, Rhys, and I'm going to ask you about it, on Twitter have said defending for the first and third goals is appalling. I get the first one, 100% from a Swindon fan. If you don't pick up a 6'4" bloke in the 6-yard box, you're asking for trouble.
Absolutely.
I think we deserve a bit of credit for the third one, though. Again, the ball's brilliant. And I always say, if you've got that in-swinging one at pace, make sure it's going inside the far post because then it just needs a little flick. The keeper's not going to have any time to react, essentially. Nichols gets in front of his centre half again with just a little step and a little drop of the shoulder and he's away. Little deft flick. I think it's great delivery and great movement, more than really, really bad defending from Swindon.
Can I tell you why I think it's good movement? Because it's not the first time they've done it.
Exactly. So it's maybe poor in the sense that they've not watched videos of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Rather than the sense that Tom Nichols is very clever in the 6-yard box. But
yeah, but the movement forward is great. But again, this is just early chemistry that has just been developed really quickly between Nichols and McDonald. Like, you know, it's
this was mentioned on iFollow again last night. Tom Nichols was interviewed. Alex McDonald has set up every single. It's an assist for McDonald, goal for every Nichols. For every Nichols.
Oh,
goal
I see.
So far.
Wow.
Free kick against Hartlepool, corner against Colchester, free kick against Swindon.
Well, there you go. So Swindon fans might say that, yeah, okay, it was poor defending. From your perspective, I can get that, but you've only seen it once. They've done this 3 times in a row now, and actually, the chemistry seems to be working. And yeah, for me, it was a great ball into the box, and you know, it went straight onto Nichols' head, and he had to just touch it. That's all he had to do, but he did, and it went in off the post, and it was just a lovely goal to watch. And they're difficult for goalkeepers to save because you don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea. A great ball by McDonald, well read by Nichols, and it's the third time they've done that. And isn't it the third? He's scored 3 goals in his first 3 games. I think it's Leo Fortune West was the last player to do that.
Yeah, I think Hayden Parry tweeted that, a brilliant tweet. Yeah, really good stat. So you're going back a long time, and we all remember how well loved Leo was for about 3 seasons. Obviously, the last couple he didn't play as much. I think there was injury problems, but for that first season, he was brilliant in getting us out of that bottom division. And fingers crossed. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
No,
maybe Tom Nichols might do that next season. That way, I mean that way, Gills fans, don't panic.
Yeah, of course, yeah, upwards.
13 minutes have gone, I think. So I'm not going to lie, I've not got many notes for after that because the game was just a blur, absolute blur. I've written down frantic, frenetic, Ollie Hawkins unplayable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And always gambling, leaving 2v2 at the back when attacking. They just kept leaving Nichols and Hawkins one-on-one, and they couldn't deal with Hawkins. So then essentially they left their other centre half was attracted to him as well, and we kept threatening to get in again. I thought.
One of the things that Swindon were failing to do in the first half is that if you've got a tall player like Ollie Hawkins, who's going to win every header, sometimes you have to kind of consider and go, oh, he's going to win every header. So as a Swindon defence or a midfield, you have to go, right, we've got to win the second ball no matter what. But
yeah,
they weren't
just
doing
drop
it.
off and let him win the first contact so that then you're set up in your shape. But they were so desperate, I think, to go and get it that they then kept letting him turn and get into a dangerous area in their final third.
Yeah, and that's what let them down in the first half. And I wonder if I wonder at half time that was mentioned because because obviously when we go to the second half, it's a different ball game entirely.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
but definitely in the first half, Hawkins was causing so many problems, and every time the ball was going to him, I was excited. I thought, oh, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. But I just wish we got a fourth. It was because Swindon kept leaving so many gaps at the back, and I thought, come on, we've got to get them on the count at some point. And there were a couple of chances. I thought, I think Nichols had one overextended touch, and then there was a moment where I think late in the first half where Gills could have run through.
Dieng had one that Peter saved and fell on, which is probably the best sort of opening we had. And I've written down Charlie Austin couple of snapshots, but I thought once the game did eventually calm down after about 30 minutes, I thought we saw out the rest of the first period relatively comfortably.
Yeah, absolutely. We looked in control of the game. We looked, and we were by far the best team on that pitch for the first half by absolute country mile. I think.
Oh yeah, I said amount of times I said to Rhys and James next to me and Owen, I said, I can't fathom for the life of me how these are sixth in the table. I mean, I knew they was inconsistent when I did the match preview, and I know their last 5 games had gone win, lose, win, lose, win. So we was hoping for a lose, but yeah, that was they. And we've said this, haven't we? Like, how many times have we spoke to each other and said there's not a lot between the top teams and the bottom teams, and it is becoming even more apparent now that we've become a threat, we can compete with anyone. I think
absolutely.
Second half, I'd imagine the team talk from us would have been more of the same. Well, no, saying that, I'm not sure it was because we changed the system at the break, and I want to ask you about it. And I know there's been comments about Neil Harris on social media since that he cost us the game. I don't think he did, not for 1 minute. I think that's ridiculously harsh. I think the one thing that he did potentially get wrong was that if you're going to change the shape and go to a back 5 with Alex McDonald out there, you should have withdrawn him at the interval. And that's not because Macca did anything wrong. That's because we could have then got Robbie McKenzie in his natural position and we'd have got Connor Masterson on another big centre half. McDonald, for me, has got lots of qualities and he works hard off the ball, but he looked like a fish out of water over there. He struggled against, I think it was Hepburn Murphy went that side second period. And they gambled, Swindon. You've got to give them credit. They made 3 changes and had a positive impact. But we suddenly got pushed back and pushed back. And I'm not saying we were deep naturally, because I think there was a couple of times in the second half where I've heard fans around me shout, oh, we've got to get up. And I looked at Rhys and we were like 5 yards from the halfway line. You can't get higher, because essentially they won't be offside in their own half. So I don't think that was a problem.
No, it's easy. It's easier to say that we just sat back and invited pressure, because just from a glance at the game, it does look like that. I just thought it was just a little bit, like you say. I think a few players, especially McDonald, was slightly out of position, and I wonder if this is more of a mentality approach than sort of a tactical approach. I just thought maybe the second half we were like, oh my God, we were 2 goals up at Colchester, but I suppose we were now against a stronger side. I just thought that maybe most of the team were like, oh my God, the next goal is really important. And if we don't get that next goal, and I don't know, I just feel maybe there was something more psychological in this approach than maybe like physical. It's really hard to pinpoint, because as you say, actually, we didn't really look like we were defending too deep. We were trying to advance forward in patches, but I don't know. I just, like you say, I think Swindon made some really good changes, and then they said they just went for it. They went gung ho, and well, as we know, it paid off. But yeah, I actually found it really hard to pinpoint what was what the problem was. That's why I'm not a football manager. Like, I'm not a tactician, But yeah, it was a funny one. But yeah, it turned into the Charlie Austin show after that.
Yeah, the bloke's class, and we'll get onto him at the end. But yeah, in terms of the pattern of the play, they had 72% of the ball. They had 71% of the ball first half and 74 seconds. So it's not like we've had loads of ball first period and then suddenly we've got, oh, you can have it and we're going to let you play in front of us. The pattern of the game essentially didn't change for me. We were playing on the break as an away side, like we did as an away side last week. The only difference was, for me, and I might get shot down, Swindon have got better players than Colchester, and that's no disrespect to Colchester United. You're bringing on Hepburn Murphy, you're bringing on other players. You've got Charlie Austin in the team. You can afford to take Johnny Williams off at the break. This is the levels. They're sixth. Colchester are 19th, 20th, or there or thereabouts. So it was always going to be a bigger test.
I mean, this is the thing. To take Johnny Williams off was, you know, at that quality, I thought, and then to bring the, you know, Hepburn Murphy on and all this, I thought, oh wow, okay. Like to be able to take some of that quality off and still sustain it and have that depth to be able to change up and have a new impetus of energy. I think you know, it kind of sums at that point. Yeah, that's Swindon do have good players. They have better players than what we've played recently, and that showed in that second half.
Yeah, I think the what's the word? The tempo, I think, was set quite early on. I think it was Saeed O'Khan, and we'll get onto him a little bit later for different reasons. But he had an early sighter that Morris beat away. I think it was a comfortable save. Then the second penalty of the afternoon, unfortunately. Again, I think it's soft. Looking back at the highlights, and I know Neil Harris has said when he was asked the question by local media, was it always going to be given because ours was given? And he said, well, that shouldn't be the case. And I get that it shouldn't be the case. Just because you think you might have got one slightly wrong in the first half, it doesn't mean you should then. Two wrongs don't make a right at the end of the day, do they? That's what we all teach our kids, and we was all taught ourselves being brought up by our parents. For me, the blame lies, unfortunately, more with Dom Jeffries than Will Wright and the referee, though, because Dom Jeffries has the ball on the edge of the box. All he's got to do is just whack it over halfway and we can get back in our shape. For some reason, decides to have a touch into the 18-yard area and they pinch it, and from there the shot happens. Again, it's point blank range, and Will Wright's got his hands up. So for me, the referee, I'd imagine, has had a look at Aaaaannd as well during the interval and knows he's made a rick. So subconsciously, he's probably, I don't like using the word levelled it up, but I can understand why he gave it.
Yeah, I think when I was I think I was thinking it'd be rude not to give that penalty. Like,
oh yeah, especially having seen the one first period given.
And that's kind of how I felt about it, unfortunately. And I think if you take you know, as a human being, being a referee, I mean, you know, he's made a mistake. Of course, you're going to feel, you know, somewhere inside you that, oh, I probably need to give this, otherwise it's going to be, you know, it would seem an unfair approach. As soon as it hit the hand of Wright, I thought, well, he's going to give that. It took a bit of time to think about it. But I thought, why are you not giving that? You're always going to give that, considering what happened in the first half. It's, you know, I don't like to think like that. And like you say, two wrongs don't make a right. But, you know,
well, like you said, the human aspect is he's got 9,000 locals screaming at him as well to blow the whistle. There's pressures of different kinds, and I'm not here saying that I like referees. That's not the case. But yeah, I can't, like you said, I can't get away from the fact that it was always going to be given because of the fact that he'd given ours, you know, 40 minutes earlier. He nearly saved it, didn't he, Glenn Morris?
God!
I don't know. I'm not so sure painful where it's hit him. It's like armpit or chest.
He's actually got a full. He's got his hand to it. He's got a proper hand palm to it, I think.
Is that what it was? Because I've not seen the full highlights or watched anything on like the ITV EFL show yet. But obviously we watched it live, and I wasn't sure if it was his arm. It was almost like he just dived just too far. I think he was banking on Austin going right in the corner.
Yeah,
and it's just maybe changed his mind and bluffed it a little bit. And it's sort of just hit him rather than he's put his hand on it. But I just thought, just turn around quicker and you might be able to grab it on the line, but it just squirmed in, unfortunately. And then the crowd were up, and it was always going to be. And I've written down long half hour in store after that.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. But yeah, you know, as a goalkeeper, you never expect to save a penalty in the slightest.
No, of course not. You're always a hero if you do, and if you don't, then so
that's what happens. Yeah. But it was unfortunate. I thought he saved it, but Morris will be disappointed with himself. But he, you know, everyone can kind of like go, fair enough, it's a penalty you're not expected to save. But I'm sure he felt if he had that opportunity again, it was exactly the same. I reckon he would have felt he should have done a bit better with it. But how can you? Yeah, it's a penalty, you know.
Most of the standards he sets himself, and such as the standards that we come to expect. And he has saved 2 penalties already this season in 90-minute football matches against Mansfield and Barrow. I'm going to take a chance. If anyone can confirm, that'd be great, or correct. I don't mind if I've got it wrong.
Great memory.
Right. We then made a change. This was where we then made the substitution. So the system change had already come. We'd moved McDonald deeper into a more sort of wing-back role. He was withdrawn. Again, I don't think it was anything to do with anything wrong that Macca had done. I thought he'd been brilliant. Again, first class in terms of his work rate, his energy. he just. And I listened to the ME7 Space Thursday night, I think, or Friday morning, afternoon. I can't remember. And that was a great listen, to be fair. It's the first one that I've listened to that James and Owen host, and I think they get a friend of your channel and myself as well, Luke on as well.
Luke. Yeah.
I think Owen said that Alex McDonald lacks fitness, and I thought that was incredibly harsh. I think there's a big difference between lacking fitness and just lacking pace, because I think Mac has done brilliantly to get himself back in a position where he's starting games and influencing games on a regular basis. So I don't think it's a fitness issue. I said to someone in the ground yesterday, I said, if I race Usain Bolt over 100 metres, he beats me comfortably. But it doesn't mean I'm not fit. It just means that Usain Bolt's naturally quicker than I am. And I think that was the issue with Macca up against Hepburn Murphy. That was Hepburn Murphy had a quicker turn of foot. So I understood the change coming. I think it could have been made a bit earlier. I think we've already mentioned it. That was the only thing I think Harris got slightly wrong, was we just didn't make that personnel change quick enough.
Yeah, and I agree. I think you can make that change a bit. It changed the whole shape of the game, and then Swindon had to take different approach of attack to try and break us down, essentially. But yeah, I agree with McDonald. I don't think he's worked really well to get where he is at the moment, and yeah, I think against was it Hepburn? Hepburn Murphy. So, it was just being. Yeah, I'll just be saying what you're saying. He just was being beaten every single time, not because he was unfit. He's just a little bit slower. That's it's as simple as that.
It is. Yeah, it happens. Some people are naturally quicker than other people, and that's the way of the world, unfortunately. Where have we got to? Yeah, I'm trying to keep up. I keep reading. It just keeps saying goal and penalty in my notes.
Well, that's probably what my mind was like the whole game. It was just a little bit of a blur and a bit of it's a bit crazy.
I've written down after the penalty, I thought the game settled down quite quickly. It's not like they scored. All right, the crowd were up, but it's not like then Morris had loads to do and we had to head things from under our crossbar or make last-minute blocks. I thought we'd ridden out that wave of euphoria that came from the second goal and then getting back into it. And it was just a little bit frustrating. At the time the leveller came, I thought we was quite comfortable. I've written down great delivery from the left from Hepburn Murphy. I think it was him. It might have been Lavigne, I'm not sure. Another one who had a good game as well for the home side. And I've written down Premier League movement and finish from Charlie Austin. And one of my bugbears, Rhys, and I don't know about you, is that people have to blame someone for everything. Like every goal we concede, every chance we miss. Can we not just sometimes just hold our hands up and just say the opposition have done really well? It's a great ball into the box. Charlie Austin does brilliantly to lose both Maxime Arp and Will Wright and Connor Masterson, whoever was trying to pick him up. I'm not sure exactly whose man he was. It's a bloke that was scoring goals in the Championship not 12 months ago. It's a bloke that's played predominantly in the Premier League all of his career. He's been in England squads. He's still only 33. It's not like he's turned up at Swindon, he's 38, 39, and he's getting a pay packet. This is a bloke who's still very, very good at his job. I think you just have to say fair play to Swindon and hold your hands up and say it's a really good equaliser.
I think sometimes you do forget that. I think it's a very big blame pointing culture in football, especially these days. It seems to be, but actually, you just have to sometimes take a step back and go, "Oh, there's the Championship Premier League quality that he has. I can see that," and he's brought it to that third goal. And I mean, you could argue the same thing for our third goal as well. Like, there's not much poor defending, just good delivery into the box.
Exactly. That's it for me. If we score that goal as Gills fans, we're going, "Oh, that's a brilliant goal." So why, when it's the other way round, are we then saying it's the defender's fault? Because it's essentially the same process.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. And I think it was a top quality goal, nice bit of movement, great ball in the box by Murphy, and then if Charlie Austin makes a good run, of course he's going to score.
Right, it's a thumping header as well, isn't it? It's an absolute thumping header. It's hitting right on the middle of the forehead. And again, to sort of revert to a cricket, he's absolutely middled it. Like
absolutely, he's tonked that for six.
I was like, that's gone out the ground, cleared the ropes and all sorts. And again, you're then thinking, we've got 15 minutes now, and all the momentum's with Swindon, and we're all looking around again in the ground and thinking, surely we can't mess this up completely, because I'm thinking I've got 2.5 hour drive and that's going to be horrific if we now manage to cock this up. The game then changed again.
Yes.
Aaaaannd, the most ridiculous second foul. George Lapsley's overrun it on the halfway line. He's running towards the away fans, towards the touchline. He's going nowhere near the goal. Aaaaannd just decides to stick a leg out. It's the most blatant yellow card when you're already on a caution. And I've written down, who sticks, who twists, who's going to be brave to try and win it. Swindon are probably thinking, oh, great, we've done so well to get back to 3 each, but now we've got to play 10 minutes with 10 men, including the injury time. Do Gills think we settle for a good point away from playoff chasing Swindon, or do we gamble? To be fair to Harris, I thought he gambled because we bought on Scott Caskett straight after for Dom Johnson.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Another striker straight on because we put Lapsley up sort of alongside Hawkins. But then we went and put another striker on. So I thought that showed signs of positivity from Harris. It certainly didn't show signs of a man playing not to be beat again.
But it's funny because when Caskett comes on, I think he's a perfect player for this. He's got pace, he's got fresh legs, he's going to come on. And when he was running quick, he had moments of the ball running forward. When he got to the final third, he let himself down a little bit with indecisiveness of passing and whatnot. But I do think, though, that was the right player to bring on with the circumstances because of the pace that he has and the 10 men that Swindon had. But it just, unfortunately, just didn't quite work out. But you're probably going to move on to when we one of the best saves of the season as well, which we're moving forward.
Because ironically, we make the change to be more attacking, and then Swindon probably have the two best chances in the final couple of minutes. I know there was a chance for Dieng, but I think the flag had gone up. There was a flick from Hawkins. Dieng had a really good save from their keeper, Bryn, I think it was.
Yeah.
But obviously it wouldn't have counted, so it didn't matter too much. But the massive one was somehow from a corner or a throw-in, we end up getting counted, which you shouldn't do against 10 men.
No.
And we're sort of watching it, and it's akin to watching a car crash in slow motion. You're seeing Hepburn Murphy bearing down on goal. You're probably thinking the same watching it on iFollow and thinking this has only got one outcome. Glenn Morris pulls off a miraculous stop, stays big as long as he can to get something on it, and it goes out for a corner, I think. Just Glenn Morris doing Glenn Morris things. And also a quick note about Glenn Morris. Thank you for coming over yesterday. We all know that he has signed up to be one of two player advocates for her game too for the club. And he come over and had a photo with the banner with myself and Paige and Mandy. So we do appreciate that. And also Jake Turner has decided to sign up as well. I think we're just trying to get the goalkeeper department, which is brilliant. But yeah, back to the game. It's an unbelievable save at a really crucial time.
Yeah, Matt, I knew he was going to save it 100%. Of course he's going to save it.
I think you're telling me a lie.
Yeah, baby.
It wasn't the end of the drama. The corner comes in. I think it then drops to the edge of the box, and there's another brilliant block. I wasn't sure if it was Amar or Hawkins that throwed himself in front of it, and it sort of hits one of them on the hip or the backside.
Goes like Hawkins.
And I thought it was going to spin in. I thought, it's going to spin in the far corner because this was one where Morris was absolutely rooted. He wasn't moving anywhere. Luckily, the luck again that has changed a little bit in the last couple of weeks, whereas it span wide and we defended the third corner. But then we had one half chance ourselves right at the end.
Yeah, it was a bit frustrating. That it was like a scrum at Twickenham, wasn't it?
It seemed to become akin to that, or very sort of schoolboy football where kids have just started playing the game and are all attracted to the football like flies round stuff.
Yeah.
Just praying. We was like, I think if on the match day live I've caught it. I'm like, Omar, get it out your feet. Lapsley, get it out your feet. And to be fair, Swindon defended it really well and it got hat clear. And the final whistle went, and we could finally take in a big sort of deep in-breath and sort of try and take stock of what had happened, because it was a phenomenal game to watch. I mean, it's not great for the ticker and the blood rate when you're a fan or involved with one of the clubs, but I'd imagine as a neutral, it was a really, really good game. It was just two teams that I thought, and I've had this chat on Twitter, I don't know what you think. Gabe Sutton always puts a tweet out Saturday evening and says, if you've watched the game, let us know what you thought. So I just thought it became a game where tactics just went out the window a little bit. Not because we hadn't set up to try and play in a shape in a certain way, but the game just became so frenetic and played at 150 mile an hour that both teams just sort of got caught up in the raw emotion of what was going on. And it was akin to a basketball match. It was, they'll have an attack, we'll have an attack. Certainly that first half. I know second half we got pinned back a little bit. And that's not the fault of Neil Harris, the players, the Swindon coaching staff, the Swindon players. It was just one of them mad games that comes around once every so often, I thought.
It felt to me like a cup match in like the fourth FA Cup match from 2000. That's what it felt like to me. Just doesn't matter what the form is, just go out there and just give everything have a go. That's what it kind of felt like to me. But do you know what this and just sort of there's a couple of things I want to mention before you maybe go on to the ratings. One thing I want to mention is,
I think I've written them down. I know what you're going to say. I think
there's two. So the first one, I just want to say, actually, look, we're competing against a team who are in the playoffs at the moment. We're competing against a team who are good. It just goes so like the fact that we've said, oh, that's 2 points dropped. Like, I can't imagine us saying that a couple of months ago. Just that sentence, like, oh, it's a couple of points dropped. You know, if a month and a half ago we can see the goal after 45 seconds, we go, oh, we've lost. You know,
yeah, you might as well turn your laptop off or just walk out the stadium.
Exactly,
essentially that. Yes.
And the other one I want to mention, and is it was the Charlie Austin show. He got 2 goals, but should he have been on the pitch in the first place at the start of the first second half? Is my question.
Yeah, you've put a video up on Twitter, and you tagged a few of us in it. Myself, I think, and ME7 and Luke, who comes on, and Adam, who does your channel as well. Yeah. And again, I think the only thing we can say against the referee is it's very quick, and but there is a referee, 2 linesmen, and a 4th official that should be governing the game. It's definitely a punch. Looking back, but obviously, how much have they seen it in live time to be able to give the decision? Because we don't want. Well, we do want them guessing and sending him off because it would have helped us out. But I'm not going to say we don't. But But yeah, I mean, surely if that's in the Premier League, there's a retrospective ban coming for Charlie.
Absolutely. And this is the thing, you know, I understand that sometimes it could be quick, it could be missed, and because Austin has played at these high levels, maybe he knows how to get away with stuff like that. You know, it's one of those things. But I just thought, I mean, Tutonda reacted very maturely with the whole situation.
Yeah, I think Tutonda's probably helped him out. You're right in saying that, because he could have gone down, rolled around, and suddenly drawn attention to the whole situation. But he just jumped back up, didn't he? Essentially,
but Jeffrey saw it because he was the one who started off the whole movement.
And Aaaaannd, I see Aaaaannd run quite a few. Like a good sort of 20, 30 yards to go and say something to the referee. So I think it's been spotted by our players, but unfortunately they can't brandish a red card.
No, they can't. But and it's funny, isn't it? Because if let's say he does get sent off for that punch, then the whole game is a different complexion. Swindon lose their best player on the pitch, and then
what was the score at the time? Was it still 3-1?
3-1. Yeah, it was only a minute old the first half. Second half.
Also, I thought you was going to mention 2 points. I thought that was going to be 1, but I didn't think your first point was going to be 1. So there was a third point then that we can make, Gills fans and Swindon fans, and we'll probably see it very differently. And again, I can understand why it wasn't given, because he'd given 1 each. Is there not a penalty on Ollie Hawkins at 3-2?
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, that's a really good point.
He gets into the penalty area.
He does. He gets pushed.
The centre back just pushes him.
Pushes him.
Both
of
hands
course.
to the floor.
Why didn't I put that in my highlight video? I think I even mentioned it whilst I was. Yeah, of course. And there's at fast pace. I remember watching it at fast pace. You kind of can see why that wasn't given. But if you just, I know slowing down it changes things a little bit. But it's a pretty solid push, and it's quite hard to push someone down who's 6'6".
Yeah, and I think there was fans in our end at live real speed said that's a spot kick. Like, we were shouting, so I don't think it was one that was you had to look at 2 or 3 times. But again, he's given 1 each. Is he brave enough to then go and give a penalty to the away side in front of 10,000 home fans or 9,000 home fans?
I say that, but I remember a game when we played Coventry City and got 4 penalties there were in one game, 2 each or 3 in one each. So, it's not against the, if there's a foul.
Oh, of course, it all depends on the makeup of the referee as well, doesn't it?
But if Trevor Kettle was ref in that game, I think there would have been about 5 penalties that game,
Oh, he does love giving a spot kick, yes.
But anyway.
We can't change it now. I think the biggest emotions are slightly frustrating to not pick up all 3 points, having led 3-1. But we scored 3 goals in a game for the first time in, I don't know, since the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And they were 6th. And if someone had said you're going to earn a point at Swindon off the back of 2 wins previously after the new players are coming, we'd have bitten arms off. So we take it, we move. Let's have a look at Swindon in terms of Rocking Robin, I've called it this week.
Rocking from nice, like it.
I couldn't even last week. I struggled last week with Fish. I couldn't even think of anything for Colchester. It was nothing at all. So we just went with it was their best player. But yeah, Rocking Robin we're going with. I apologise in advance to everyone. That is appalling, but that is the theme. I'll let you go first, because I think they had a couple of candidates. To be fair, they've got some good players. Swindon. I know they were shocking at points, but going forward, they had a few that I thought. Murphy and Austin and Johnny Williams, who had to come off. There's others.
So I went with 2, and I've done it in half. So therefore I can't really put one together. So the first half, I actually thought Johnny Williams was excellent. I thought he was unplayable at times. The ball just seemed to go to him, and he created everything. Swindon were putting lots of early balls into the box, which I think kind of played into our hands a little bit after their first goal, because we could defend that relatively well. But it still was a threat, and Johnny Williams was doing that frequently. He was in control of that movement going forward, in control of that attacking movement. So for me, actually, Johnny Williams in the first half got player of the match for Swindon, and in the second half, I mean, of course, it's gone to, unfortunately, went to Charlie Austin. He's a championship quality player playing in League Two against a team who are second from bottom.
Yeah, of course.
So it was just, you could see the quality, you could see what he was all about. Yeah, he was my player of the match for the second half. I mean, altogether, I would probably just about give it to Charlie Austin, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course, he's had a massive impact in terms of goal scores. We'll just have a quick look at Williams' stats then for Rhys. So it was 45 minutes played before he came off. We don't know if it was tactical or an injury. He scored a goal, 3 key passes, 3 out of 5 crosses were completed. Had a shot on target, obviously we know that. Dribble attempts was 2 completed out of 3, won 4 out of 6 ground duels. So yeah, he was having a positive impact. So in terms of the game as a whole, it was a good substitution from Gills' perspective. And if we look at Charlie himself, 90 minutes, 2 goals, 4 shots on target, 1 block, 2 off target, 41 touches.
He was doing stuff.
He's just very good at what he does, isn't he?
Yeah.
I didn't go for either of them.
Oh, really? Okay. So
I went with someone who played in midfield. I thought Marcel Lavinier was very, very good on the afternoon. And I was trying to go away from the fact that because we say it's easy to pick goal scorers, and I get that, and sometimes you have to because they've had such a positive impact on the game. But I think it was maybe after your video came out that I thought, I'm not giving him man of the match. He perhaps shouldn't have been on the pitch. So I'm sulking, Charlie, essentially. I know you're not watching, so I don't know why I'm addressing you on the channel. But I thought Marcel Lavinier was very good at what he did. He sort of played that left side central midfield role, which allowed him to roam on the outside. And I think it was him and one other that were doubling up first period, which essentially led to the opening goal for Williams. 90 minutes played. He had 97 touches, 91% pass completion, which is a phenomenal effort. Played 3 key passes. Wasn't directly involved, doesn't pick up any assists, which is probably a little bit harsh, but I just thought he was at the forefront of everything that Swindon Town did really well. 8 out of 10 long balls is phenomenal accuracy.
That's really
as well. 40% crossing. He won just under 50% of his ground duels. I thought technically he was very, very good. Something that we lacked in the first half of the season. We've said this over and over again. He had legs, he had energy, he had drive. He was trying to play on. He's playing on the front foot, which is what we're doing more of now. So yeah, for me, man of the match for Swindon was Marcel Lavinier, but obviously can't argue with Charlie Austin. He scored 2 goals and dragged his side back from the brink of losing a football match. Yeah,
absolutely. And Lavinier is one of those players. Actually, I noticed him a couple of times throughout the game, but he was silently effectual. He was the engine of that of the movement, as you say. And sometimes you can be such a good player but be unseen. And it's kind of how sometimes Sean Williams is a bit like that for us. Have a quality game, but you couldn't really pinpoint exactly what he's done specifically, apart from just be at the core of everything.
Yes. And I think we've seen that in the last 3 weeks with Sean as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Lavinier, a good game, and I think that's we could agree to disagree, but
well, that's what we want, isn't it? We don't want to just be coming on and saying, "Oh yeah, that's fine." So because we want to create debate, and we want people to get involved with that debate by commenting down on the comments bit on the YouTube channel as well, or when it goes up on Facebook and on Twitter and that type of thing. That's essentially what we all like doing, don't we? We love talking about football, and as long as it's done within reason, I'm up for chatting to anyone about the game, and I know you are as well, and everyone else on Twitter. It's brilliant fun. We go on back to Gills now, and we're going to go to Gills man of the match before we do the match ratings. This one I'm probably going to get shouted at again by the goalkeepers union, so I've not picked Glenn Morris. I could have picked Glenn Morris for that save alone, because it was that big. I just thought the player, and again similar to Lavinier for Swindon, it's not a player that's actually directly been involved in goals, but I just think he brought so much to us as a forward threat in the first 60 minutes. Was Ollie Hawkins. I thought first half he was absolutely unplayable. It was as good a centre forwards performance as I've seen in a long time, certainly from someone in a Gillingham shirt. And again, we're not harping back to previous players, but I don't think I've seen anything like that since we had Verdane Oliver, his best 2 or 3 seasons ago, like that season when he got over 20 goals. Everything that came into Hawkins, whether it was his head, his chest, his feet, it stuck. He then occupied 2 centre-backs. So if they wanted to try and come and climb over him or pinch it, he won 3 kicks, or he was able to spin and get us moving towards their 18-yard box and their goal. I think it's his flick that initially causes the panic for the penalty that falls to Aaaaannd. again, you look at his stats and you think, oh, have you given him man
Really?
of the
Yeah.
match? 90
But
minutes, one shot, but there was 4 key passes. And he won he won at 65% of his aerial duels, which is a big part of a Neil Harris side. So that moving forward, that sort of ratio is going to keep us being a threat against any side in the division. I don't care who's playing. Ollie Hawkins is a handful. He's a massive lump in the nicest sense. His link plays first class if you give him enough ball. I just thought the game changed when he tired. I don't know. He sort of picked up an injury because there was some sort of strapping around his hand
with his hands,
when
yeah.
he started, and then he went down on it. I think start of the second half, and he just didn't quite look the same player after that. I could understand why he was kept on because we had to have an outlet and a target up there, and he's great at defending our box as well. But for me, for 55, 60 minutes, it was the most complete centre forwards performance you can imagine, aside from scoring his own goal.
It was a Neil Harris. It's a Neil Harris approach, isn't it? That kind of thing. And and you know, if you look at the all the players that had contributed to the game of a goal and assist, like he's the best player who has not got any of those yet. Like you know, he's
been unfortunate that he's not got a direct goal contribution yet because he's been phenomenal for 3 games in different ways as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, he's been and sometimes you can look at stats and go, well, why are you picking him? But actually, there's a lot of what they call like third man running, third man assists, and he's part of that. That's what he's been doing, and that's what we've been missing. So he's filled a nice little void there that we didn't have a player
because
of that stature.
For the first goal, centre backs get attracted to him. Suddenly, Dieng's got the freedom of the 18-yard box and the 6-yard box, and that sort of stuff goes unnoticed. Like we said, for the penalty, it's his flick that leads to the penalty being given. I'm trying to think goals last week as well. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but yeah, I totally understand it. It's phases of play.
A lot of off the ball work which goes unnoticed, which allows other players to get through. Yeah, exactly.
Who did you go for?
I did the same. We're gonna have to agree on that one. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But I want to say,
I thought you're never going to pick Hawkins. I thought it'd be somebody else.
But I like I did for the Swindon. I was between 2. For me, it was Hawkins in the first half. Actually, I thought he did a lot of work, but in the second half, and you said you alluded to Morris. I had to give it to Glenn Morris because if you get a goalkeeper, okay, he's let him 3. Let's forget that. But you know, he could have let him 4, and he saved us a point there. And who knows, that could be the difference between us. Let's be honest here, staying up or not. And I just
the difference between playoffs and automatic promotion, Gills fans. I think what Rhys is trying to say. He's not getting ahead of himself at all.
Okay. Fair point. So if in the second half for me, it was Glenn Morris, just because of the amount of pressure that he was put on him in the second half. And if you're a goalkeeper and you're Swindon are knocking on your door literally for 75% of that game, you're going to be under a lot of not physical pressure, but you know, mental pressure to be able to stay focused for the whole of that half specifically. And I think at the end, that 1-on-1, when Hepburn Murphy was coming through, I mean, I knew Morris was going to save it, but I'm the only one who thinks that. But he saves it, right? And then he's also, you know, he gets up and he goes on with it. He's not phased by what happens in a game. He makes a save, he stands up, he gets on with it, you know. And I think that's experience. He's, what is he, 39 years old? He's been a goalkeeper for a very long time. Just knows what he's doing, and you know, and that experience for me was shown yesterday, big time. And you know, he's letting 3 goals, but he's still putting off saves like that in the 90th minute. For me, that's a man who's played the game for a long time. And for me, he got the man of the match in the second half. It's a bit of an unusual approach to give players.
No, we've done it before. I've done joint man of the match before. It's a great sign, isn't it? Because it means that there's very little between the options that we've got in front of us. And I suppose if Paul Fisher's watching, Rhys will be getting free tickets to every game that he can come to if he gets back to England, because Goalkeepers Union. Fish, I'm going to defend myself if you are watching. When we do the match ratings, I had Hawkins and Morris the same rating, so that's how close it was. It was literally the flip of a coin, and well, it's great that we picked different ones, isn't it? Because you got to hear us talk about different Gillingham footballers who had good games. So
exactly.
Match ratings then, Rhys, before we start sort of ending this episode. There's one other little bit I want to talk about before we finish up, but match ratings, if we just go through it. Glenn Morris, I gave 7.5. Thought he was very good at everything he did, and of course the huge save at the end has preserved a point.
Yeah, I gave him an 8. So that save alone for me was top. Yeah.
Back four, I went for sevens across the board. I didn't think anyone was better than the others. I thought no one was worse than the others. I just thought they were all very solid. And again, it comes back, we've conceded 3 goals. So defensively, you maybe ask questions, but I don't think, aside from maybe the first one, I don't think anyone's made a horrendous error. Excuse me.
No, but I think along with I gave you mostly a 7 across the back. But if I was to raise one, you could argue Will Wright, because he put the penalty away, but that's an attacking
I forgot
part
about
of his
that,
game.
Yeah, it might have been a 7.5 with the goal then. Yeah, that's a fair point.
But on top of that, you could also argue Max Amer had a pretty solid game, did clear a lot of the balls. He got the penalty for the second goal for Gills as well. But I thought Tutonda had quite a solid game, actually. I thought he was quite good out there. And,
aside from his attempted rugby tackle on the halfway line.
Okay, good point.
He went through on Joel when he decided to start wrestling.
That's a good point. But
I know the Royal Rumble was on Saturday night. I think he might have been watching previous editions of that.
Yeah, so I forgot about that actually. But what I like about Tutonda that he's had a turbulent time at Gillingham, and now he's kind of solidified his place in that position. And just to see him perform at a good standard out there, it's just a delight to watch for me. I like that, and he's just a solid player. And I thought he showed that again yesterday. The consistency recently has been quite nice from Tutonda.
Yeah, and he plays on the edge a little bit as well.
And to get punched from Austin, who's more WWE stuff,
Well, yeah.
And then to get on with it. Yeah. No, I think with that I agree with you across the back. I would give maybe 7.5 to probably Max.
Yeah, it's a fair
and
point
Will.
on Will Wright, definitely, because obviously I do add that on as well. Because I don't think his performance alone was only a 6.5. So I do apologise to Will Wright. That should have been a 7.5. In terms of the midfield, the 2 predominantly central players, I gave Williams. I've done it again. I've missed off Dieng's goal. I've given them both 7s. But I just thought Dieng perhaps had to play within himself after picking up that booking, unfortunately. So then he couldn't be as forthright and robust as he perhaps would have wanted. But again, by no means a poor performance. Williams, we've sort of alluded to earlier on in the show, he's been very good from the Leicester game onwards, hasn't he? And he just looks a completely different player with better players around him.
Yeah, and also we mentioned Dieng when he got the yellow card in that first half. There were a couple of actually throughout the whole game, there were a couple of moments where I said he would have made a challenge or he would have been a bit more physical, and he just stepped off. But something I really, that's frustrating for Dieng. But also, again, it shows his experience. He knows that if he tackles someone and gets a second yellow and he's off, all of a sudden we're really on the back foot and really hanging on. So just holding off and playing the percentages, that's what, for me, Dieng did really well yesterday. I've given him a 7.5 for that, actually, along with the goal. But I just thought, he played the percentage of the game being on a yellow card. And I thought that was really sensible play from an experienced head.
Yeah, I suppose that's the difference between him and Saïdou Khan in the last 10 minutes is that he's slightly younger and a little bit more naive, and he's rushed himself into a challenge and got himself dismissed. Dom Jeffries, I thought was probably his most, I'm not going to say worst because that's the wrong, I thought that was probably his most low-key performance in the last few weeks. I thought he was just slightly off the pace compared to what we've seen. Again, not a poor performance. But obviously, you have to look at the fact that he's played a part in the concession of the penalty, unfortunately, because he doesn't clear his lines. There was a couple of other times when he just got caught in possession. To me, it just looked a little bit like a player who's played a lot of senior football in a short period of time, and it just caught up with him a little bit yesterday against a very good Swindon team. And I gave him a 6.5, but by no means it was a poor performance from Dom, just not quite at the levels we've seen in recent weeks.
No, it's a fair point to make. I mean, there's one of his stats here. He's got 89% passing accuracy, so that part of his game didn't drop. But then he played pivotal parts in important moments of the game, unfortunately. And for me, it wasn't a shining performance, but by no means was it a poor performance. It was just amongst everyone else, just the one that, if anything, just became a bit unnoticed and ineffectual. And that's kind of probably the most polite way I can put it.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not, but no way are we digging out Dobby, because he's probably been our best player for the last 6-8 weeks, consistently been very, very good. And he was brilliant against Hartlepool. And like I say, he played a part in one of the goals against Colchester, didn't he? Nicking possession and winning the corner. So, yeah, not poor, but just not quite as good as he's been in recent games. Alex
just
McDonald,
an off day for him, I think.
Yeah, we all have them. They're League Two footballers at the end of the day. If they didn't have off days, they'd be playing in the Premier League like Charlie Austin used to do. Alex McDonald, I gave a 7. probably would have been higher, but obviously we know he only got sort of 55 minutes in the end. But I thought first half he was very good. Obviously sets up Nico's goal, plays a part in the opener because he gives it to Tom Nichols. Works incredibly hard out of possession. Just lacks a little pace. We know that, but he's never had loads of pace. It's not something. It's not a new thing with Alex McDonald. So for me, it was a solid 7.
Yeah, same for me. Actually, we agree on that one. I thought it was a 7, and considering he played, was it 60 or so minutes, I thought that was a good showing for a 7 as well. Did his bit, got the assist, and then just got taken off because he was out pace, essentially. And that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And the front two, I gave 7.5 each. I thought Nichols again didn't have loads of ball, but when he had it, he used it really well. So it was probably a 7 plus 0.5 for the goal. Ollie Hawkins, I would have given an 8, but I just thought he looked to have he just run himself to a standstill last 20 minutes, and he just became slightly ineffectual. So it was a 7.5. I dropped that down to, but again, loads of positives from the front pair.
Yeah, no, I gave Hawkins an 8 and Nichols 7.5. I just thought, you know, if you're playing at that intensity like Hawkins did throughout 75 minutes, I can understand if you get a little bit tired and get a little bit run down into the ground, as you say. But for me, it was an 8, and that's why I couldn't choose between Morris and Hawkins. And Nichols obviously getting the goal, but you know, it's nice to be able to say, like, we've got forwards who are getting scores of over 7 and a bit, you know. it's
mad, isn't it? And Tom Nichols is officially our top scorer in the league. He's been here for a month.
Yeah, which is you know, is he on par with Baggett or something like that, isn't he?
Yeah, it's three goals and 2 assists in 3 performances. A phenomenal start, because I know we've mentioned the tweet that Hayden Parry put out about 3 goals, but there's also 2 assists in there as well. It's a really, really good start to his Gillingham career, and long may it continue. 2 substitutes I gave ratings to were Masterson and Lapsley. I gave 6.5. Masterson didn't do anything wrong. Lapsley didn't do anything in terms of over influencing the game. And Scott Cashkett, I didn't give a rating because he only came on for the last 5 minutes.
But then with Lapsley, there's I want to see him. There's something there. I want to see him start a game. I really want to see him start a game. My old man said that yesterday. He said he's a good player. There's something in him. At the time that he's been on the pitch, he can really offer something. We need to give him that chance, and and it's nice to have that problem, actually. You know,
well, it's great to be able to just phase him in because we are playing better, rather than thinking, oh, you just got to drop him straight in. And again, the same with Masterson. If that had been a month ago, we'd have gone, right, we put him straight in because we're so desperately poor at doing pretty much everything. But now we can, 20 minutes, half hour here and there, and I think at least one of them might start next week. But
never know.
We might have more choices by then. And that brings me on to the last subject quickly. I'm just noticing that my laptop battery has not got loads left, so we'll try and just get through this last bit fairly quickly, and then I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, Rhys. Obviously, transfer window closes on Tuesday, so we have about another 48, another 72 hours, just under. I'm sure everyone will have Sky Sports News on Tuesday, or sneakily looking at phones if they're at work and not meant to be. But Harris said at the recent Q&A session he wanted 4 more. He's got 1, Connor Masterson. He then said he wanted a left back, a pacey winger, and another centre forward. I think that's about right, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
question to you though would be, if we can only get 2, if we can only take 2 of them positions, which 2 would it be?
Left back, centre forward. That was what my heart just said then. Straight away.
See, left back's the least important for me.
I don't know.
I think Tatonda's been good. We've got Mackenzie can play there. Alexander can play there. We can go to a back 4 now, back 5, sorry. So we could play wing backs and have an attack-minded. I think we desperately need pace. Just that was one thing that we noticed yesterday in the game. As soon as, aside from when Cashkett come on, without a Delacune and obviously Green out the picture now, when it stopped sticking to Hawkins, I thought we became easier to play against, and we had no runner and no outlet. I mean, Lapsley's not slow, but I just think if we can get another one with sort of Caskett's pace in wide areas, then I think it would give us another string to our bow and make us a very different threat.
That's probably why I said left back, in the sense that you could have a forward, like a wing back almost. That's kind of that pacey winger. That's probably what I meant when I was thinking.
Yeah, if you could do someone that could do that whole, almost like Ryan Law did, but just a lot quicker.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still think we need another Ollie Hawkins type, because I think Walker, Cashkett, Nichols, they're all very similar players who would thrive playing alongside Ollie Hawkins. My concern would be if Ollie Hawkins gets injured or suspended, we then have to completely change the way we play. And we've already said millions of times that Neil Harris's sides live and die by a target man. So I think I know we was linked to Josh Umirah earlier in the week, the Hartlepool forward. I think that'd be a great signing. I know Harris has come out and said now that permanent deals are going to be very tricky. It looks like there'll be loans now. I'd take a chance. If they wanted anything below 200,000, I'd say to Brad, go and see how robust they are in terms of turning it down. Not only would it make us stronger, it would weaken
them
a relegation rival. But I think he just looks the type of striker that can do both sides. He's a big lump, he can hold it up. But we saw in the game against Hartlepool that he can create his own chances and he can run in and stretch teams. That would be the type of forward I'd love to see us get in.
I think it was the one that we mentioned about the strength of Hartlepool when we picked one. It was like one of the only ones we could pick out, wasn't it? So, you know, if we get someone like that on our team, absolutely brilliant. And I think it's the kind of player we need moving forward. Like you say, I've never considered if Hawkins or any of our players were suspended or injured. Of course, we need someone with a little, we'd have to change the shape. And to get someone that could almost replicate what Hawkins is doing, but would be of huge benefit and really show our intent in the depth department of the squad. And yeah, I still think we lack a little bit of depth in that sense. We've tightened up a lot of strong key areas that need to be stronger. Now we're looking to make a little bit more depth and have a lot more opportunities of choice, which I think is what we were lacking throughout the whole season.
I think what we've signed now has given us enough to be safe, and hopefully that doesn't come back and bite me on the backside. We've seen enough in the last 3 games to suggest that we'll be absolutely fine in terms of relegation threats. And it's just a shame again. Yes, we didn't hold on because it would have taken us outside of the bottom 2. But it's another step in the right direction. It's another positive performance and another positive result, albeit being a little bit frustrating. Rhys, it's been a real pleasure as always. This has been quite a long one. I've just realised we've been going nearly an hour, which is great.
Oh my god!
But there was loads to talk about. There was loads. There was a red card, 2 penalties, 6 goals, loads of talking points and flash points. Go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Gills fans, Swindon fans, if you've been watching and got this far, then thank you. I really appreciate it. Please keep dropping a like and subscribing. 2,331 is staggering. So thank you very much for the ongoing support. Keep checking out Rhys's channel. Go and subscribe to that. Go and watch his match day video. I've not seen it yet, but I will be sitting down at some point today before I play football to watch that. Be back. Might come back Tuesday if I can squeeze it in. Might be a transfer deadline day special if I can get something sorted out. If not, be back later in the week for a match preview show with a Crawley fan. And of course, we'll be returning at a full-up Priestfield Stadium come next Saturday for match day live against Crawley Town. Cannot wait. Home fans in the town end. What a throwback. It's going to be like 2001 again. I cannot wait for that. So myself, Boz, and hopefully Stocky as well, and 9,000 Gills fans screaming and singing their hearts out. And hopefully we'll have 3 more points on the board come next Saturday, 5 p.m. But until then, enjoy your week and up the Gills.
Up the Gills.